go. All right, everyone. You know what day it is. Live from the Sid Fit Studios in Kitchener, Ontario, the Sid and Sonia Show. Here we are. How you feeling? Are you hyped? You ready to go? You ready to go? All right. It's my favorite day of the week. You know what day it is.
Right. It's not just Thursday anymore.
Every day.
Every day is Boxing Day. Oh, no, that's not true. Sunday is the day of rest.
It's true.
Every day except for Sunday is Boxing Day.
It's like Canelo says, right?
Hi, Mark.
No boxing, no life.
Did Aaron ever send you the day? So for those of you who don't know, Aaron loves Canelo. Yeah. And after one of his fights, there was this video of him doing this special dance on a boat.
Right.
So then I mimicked it, and I sent it to Aaron. I'm like, who did it better? It was Canelo, by the way. It wasn't.
Mark Simmons in the house. I'm so excited.
Great to be here. I got this.
Awesome. Glad to have you.
I got all the fight posters in the back. I got this boring.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Let's see if we can.
All right, Sonia's just adjusting her volume here. Oh, let's get him up. Get him up. Is he up there?
I don't know. Oh, that's Ringtown.
How about that one?
Media. I don't know. Let's try. All right. Yeah. Try again, Mark.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. You're just very quiet. I don't know why.
That's okay.
It's just the way it is. It's just going to be intimate.
Yeah. Hey.
How's it going?
It's all good. It's all good. We work with it.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know, because I wasn't sure if Sonia knew, so we watched one of your fights back in the day, because Mark was a very accomplished amateur boxer.
Yes, he was.
And do you remember the fight we watched? Remember who we fought?
Felix Savon. Am I saying that correctly?
Felix Savon.
Yes, I think
okay.
so. Yeah.
Felix Savon.
Yeah.
And Felix Savon was three-time Olympic gold medalist.
Was it six time
in a row?
Yeah, in a row.
Right.
In a row, world champion.
And we watched when you fought him in '97. It was at a tournament, '97 in a tournament. All they had there was like the third round of a 5-round fight. You lost 8-6 or 12.
No,
12,
yeah,
12-8.
12-8.
12-8. So you're like, I remember that one.
It's like when I bring up, Hopkins assistant, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
So tell me about going into that fight. Of course we saw our Adrian Titorescu, who's no longer with us, in your corner. Maybe smile to see that man in your corner, because I could just picture what he's saying to you between the round. But tell me, before the fight, you're going against the great, the legendary, and I know as we go in we try not to think of those things, but the great, the legendary Felix Savon. What are you thinking before you get in the ring?
Well, it's actually a funny story, because leading up to that fight was in Cuba, in Pino del Rio. It was the Cuban national championships, but Cuba invite other countries to their national championships because Cubans always win. So, we were there. There were some South American countries there, and what happened is I landed in Cuba, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll fight Felix Savon. I don't know. He won the gold medal last year. I'd fought David Defiabon for the Olympics, to go to the Olympics, and David Defiabon beat me for that spot to go to the Olympics. And at the time, I was so down. But David was competed in the '92 Olympics with Nigeria. He immigrated to Canada, and I was number one, but then he took my spot. But having that, he's the last Canadian to win a medal at the Olympic Games. So David Defiabon, 1996 in heavyweight, and he lost to Felix Savon in the finals. So that actually motivated me, and I thought, wow, I was close to David. If I was this close, and he's number 2 in the world, I can do some things. So moving forward, in Canada, I won the nationals, and no one would beat me the next 4 years. And the following year, I'm going to Cuba with Adrian, and so I remember walking around Pino del Rio, and they go, I didn't know Spanish, and we're taking a tour of the cigar factory, and they go, oh, who you fighting? And I go, Savon. And they go, I'm dead. so they're telling me I'm dead. I'm kind of laughing, ha ha ha, So leading up to the fight, there was also this other Colombian heavyweight that was in the tournament, and he's saying, I'm gonna knock out Savon. I'm gonna knock out Savon. Anyways, he was on the other side of the draw, and he was fighting before me against another Cuban fighter, and so he goes out. and I'm in the dressing room kind of warming up. It's really hot there, and Adrian goes out to watch, right? So Adrian goes out to watch, and I'm in the dressing room, and then I see the guy walking back maybe a minute and a half later with his head down like this. Anyways, he got knocked out. So within the first minute. So now I'm looking for Adrian to put my headgear on, and he's like a little bit late, and he's trying to put it on. He's trying to put it on. Anyways, eventually I look out and I can see Savan is standing in the ring. Now this is like, it's like an arena, coliseum, and all the Cuban, people are there, and it's free to go in, right? So it's packed. And you start hearing this booing because they think the opponent's not going to show up. Anyways, Adrian eventually gets the headgear on, and I start running to the ring. And I got a nick from Mike Strange. I'm not going to repeat it, but from that moment. But I was running to the ring now, and then you hear the crowd, like they start to cheer, like the next victim. And so
they're like, fresh meat, fresh meat, fresh meat.
So I get in the ring and I start dancing around the ring and I stumble, and then you hear the crowd laugh, right? So now they're laughing, right? So but I was revved up, and really I'm fighting. At that time he was a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, maybe a 5-time world champion. I have nothing to lose, right? Except you don't want to get knocked out, because he knocks out everybody, right? He knocked out like guys that turn pro. He knocked out David Tua, Lyman Brewster. There's so many fighters that actually won a piece of the world heavyweight title that he knocked out in the amateurs. So the first round rings, and he charges at me, whoom, right hand right on my nose, and my nose just starts bleeding, pouring, like just. And make a long story short, the first round, because it was a 5-round fight, 5 2-minute rounds. They moved from the 3 3s to 5 2-minute rounds in amateur boxing then, and so I was down 5-0 in the first round, but I clawed my way back, and I think that round that you saw was round 3, and the referee, if you notice, the referee takes a point off of me for my head being low, and I throw a right hand, I land the right hand, and then I come in, my head's low, and he takes a point, which was 2 on the computer system back then. So that was like, 2 points, which really I should not have had a point taken off, but I did. Anyways, at the end of the fight, it was 12-8. I lost, 5-round fight. I walked around Cuba, and people are shaking hands, shaking my hand. I walked on the bus, and all the fighters are chatting. It was a huge moment for me. I remember Tieflo Stevenson was there. He came up and shook my hand. So, for me, that was the first time I faced Felix Savan. I faced him again at the World Championships in October in Hungary. So that was the second fight, which I thought was even closer, but points-wise, it wasn't. So, but yeah, great memories. Yeah.
Wow,
and
wow.
Because of being able to spar guys like you, Sid, because I was a kid upcoming, and you guys used to tap me and play with me in the ring, but I learned from that. And I can talk all about coaching and being around great fighters too. But
yeah, you had told me a story that Sid had inspired you at a time. I believe it was it you were watching Sid, or you had sparred Sid?
Well, so I can even go back a little bit further. I boxed for a long time. I started when I was young, but I never had the best coaching. And in hindsight, I can look back and see that, because I boxed for 10 years. And when I first went to, there's Thistletown Boxing Club, and they put me with sparring with Dominic Filane. Now, I probably weighed about 125, 130. And Dominic's 106 pounds, and he's just peppering me, pop, 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 pop. And I'm thinking, how I've been boxing for 10 years, and yeah, he's the national champion at the time, but he is toying with me. And then I would move up, and then I'd be sparring with his brother, Jerry Filane, who of course was like number 2. He was either number 2 to Billy Irwin or Mike Strange, but he was a very good technical boxer. And then I started to realize, hey, you know what? These guys all had great coaching. I had my dad, and then I had, guys in the gym that probably weren't technically the best coaches. Yeah. Now I went to the gym where I had national champions. Eventually, that gym turned to West Mall, and that's where I met Sid. And Sid, warm up with me for 1 or 2 rounds, and then, get into the real sparring. But I learned, like, Sid had the most beautiful style, and his hands were up beautiful. And that, you know, that probably comes back from Arnie Beam. You guys started, you know, you look at all the fighters that came out of, you know, Waterloo, Kitchener. I mean, yourselves, your brother, the Johnsons, Lennox. There's just so many great fighters that came out of that area, and it's Arnie Beam, you know, started them out, and then made it to Adrian Teodorescu, and you know, that's where I learned a lot of these skills. And then down the road, I trained from 97, 98 when I went to the Olympics with Dwight Fraser and, you know, Troy Ross, and that's who I spar with. So I learned from great fighters, and I just got better.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned Adrian, and one of the funniest things, like Adrian in the corner, like I remember some of the things he would say to me in the corner. Like he was such a great, I want to say motive. He just broke it down so simply between the rounds. Give me, like, what's one memorable thing that Adrian would said to you between a fight that you're like, hey, like this is. Do you remember anything that he said to you between the rounds? Because I remember fighting. I remember fighting Greg Johnson, and I come back to the corner, and it was a close round, but Greg had won the round. He goes, see. Why you let him touch you? Why you let this guy even touch you? You know? And I was just like, yeah, right. That's the way to do it. Why you let him, you know?
Yeah. That's Adrian. He's, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, it's like that was just something that motivate you to go, okay, maybe I gotta smarten up. And but you know, yeah, he was also comforting in the corner too. You know, like definitely he'd tell you what to do. And the thing about Adrian was it was simplicity with him. It was the basics. You go back to the basics. You know, even he would say with Lennox Lewis, he said, look, basic. All we had to do is double jab right hand, left hook. You know, like 3 combinations, 4 combinations. That's it. Simplicity. And if you do that, if you execute that in a fight, you know, and you do it effectively, you're gonna be effective, and things that pay off, right? So that was sort of things that he would tell you, things that might be relatively obvious, but you need that reminder, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I definitely want to talk about. I want to talk about boxing from where you see it now, which is like, right from the referee point of view. Like that is. So being a boxer, I'm sure helps because you've got an understanding of punching. You can see when people are tired and all these sorts of things. But tell me, how are some of the ways that being a boxer has helped you transition into being one of the top referees actually in the world? So tell me that.
Stay in the world. I want to get there one day. I want to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's refereeing is it's a little bit, I don't want to say difficult, but you know, I've developed and I've improved significantly, I would say, over the last 5-6 years. And that's because I've been attending seminars all around the world, like with the great referees. So I mean, the first referee that came to Toronto was Mark Nelson, who's father was a great referee too, refereed Mike Tyson and all these. Mark Nelson put on a seminar. And I was like, whoa, you know, I was just like all these different things that I never really thought about as a referee. And then I started going to the sanctioning bodies, the WBC, the WBO, the IBF, WBA, their referee seminars, and learning from, you know, I went to a paid out of pocket, went to California, went to Seoul Arbiter, which Jack Reese, of course, you might remember Jack Reese from the Tyson Street, Deontay Wilder, where he's standing over and he's counting, and Tyson Fury gets up and he finishes the fight. And Jack Reese done, I don't know how many world championships. Tony Weeks was there, Russell Moore, all the great referees that you see in the ring today were there. And for 3 days, we're going over seminars, you know, situations.
Wow.
And I would say that and I'm just being honest, 90 to 95% of even boxing people don't notice the subtle things that these top referees do that make the difference. And it's something that they do. Which, to be honest, before I started going to these seminars, I did not know. And you know, it's like, I know boxing is basically, how hard can it be? Separate, break, you know, you count. But there's subtle things that a referee does, the mechanics of a referee that can play a big role in the outcome of a fight. How they, and I would say refereeing is more managing the fight. You don't want to be that's taking points off all the time. And I was guilty of that early on. I know I was. And I have a couple fights that perhaps I would have wanted to step back and do again. You can't do it
Right.
early in my career. But now it's definitely a different situation after attending all these seminars and so forth. But, you know, as a fighter, the cues I pick up, I really get a sense and a feel. I know when a fighter is hurt. I know when a fighter has had enough. And then sometimes, you know, most times a fighter will do certain things, but a fighter will always say, no, don't stop the fight. But that's kind of for the crowd. That's for the crowd. You know, they don't want to be looked at as opposed as someone who gave up or quit. So you need a referee to step in there. You need a referee to stop the fight and sometimes save them from a much worse outcome. Right?
Yeah, from themselves.
Yeah.
Save them from themselves, right?
Save them from themselves.
Yeah. You've got me so intrigued here. Give me one little small little nuance or thing that you kind of picked up that you're like, I didn't notice this said before that referees do this, but I noticed I learned that when you do this, it affects, you know, the fight or something this like. What's one little thing that you learned?
Well, there's so many. I mean, but it's everything from, you know, like, you have to understand, a low blow is a low blow. It's a foul. Yes, it's a foul. But in a professional fight, in an amateur fight, they're going to warn you every time. In a professional fight, there's some inconsequential punches that might land south of the border, but the ref, you know, it really had no implication on the situation, and it wasn't intentional. It wasn't a hard punch. It was just a glancing blow. Maybe it was deflected down there. You don't need to step in and go, okay, stop, keep him up. Let the flow of the fight going, unless it impacts the one fighter, and the fighter's, you know, he's hurt, or let's say she's hurt, more he than she. But you know, if a punch glances low, you don't always have to step in there, right? Now, if this is consistent and it's repetitive, okay, you need to do a firm warning. So there's soft warnings, or soft warnings are on the outside, like keep them up, and more firm warnings, you stop the action. You separate the fighters. You say, hey, listen, this is a firm warning. And you don't often say, the next time you do this, I'm going to take a point. You shouldn't say that, because now you've set yourself up. Because if you go on to the next series of punches and one glancing blow goes down there and everybody heard you say, the next time you do this, I'm going to take a point, but you know it's inconsequential. So you don't want to set yourself up like that. So you basically give a soft warning, more of a firm warning, but there's situations where you don't need to give any warning. Just let the flow of the fight go. Boxing match. It's different.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when you're talking about that, I feel sometimes like amateur boxing, the referees, they almost feel like, I don't know, like they're being watched by the other officials. And if any little foul happens, even if it's not a foul, it's like, up, head up. Like, I feel like they have to, like, they feel like they have to count. And what you're saying in pro boxing,
I don't disagree with that, because I did the course for the officials for amateur boxing, and it's very true. They are very hard on, this is what you need to do. The second this happens, correct this. The second it happens, sorry guys.
But it might not even be effective.
And that's it. It's like Mark's saying, there are times where, like, I've watched, you know, you watch sparring in the gym. I wouldn't have called that. It's not going to affect anything in a major way. It might be that soft, like, warning, or, you know. But that's what they're taught to do, and especially if you're starting out as a new person, you are being watched by all the other officials.
You're
like, you are being judged. You better call it.
I actually feel like you're in there to call foul. Can I see a foul? What's a foul? Oh,
gotta call it.
Slap.
Gotta call it.
What's your slap? Slap. It's crazy.
Yeah, it definitely. It was like that in a big way. I'd say a few years ago, amateur boxing's changed a little bit. They're a little bit more lenient, quite a bit more. More like the pros, but to your point, the referees are being watched by their superiors outside, and they tend to jump on everything. And the problem sometimes is that if you let something go, and let's say in theory you let it, you know, it was an inconsequential punch that landed a little bit low, and you know that in your head, and you don't want to stop the action, and you did that, somebody on the outside is going to tell you missed the low blow, you know, so they might end up jumping in on every little foul, and that's ultimately what happens. So, but I do think the training from the amateur IEBA or IBA or whatever the training is in Canada is very, very good, and we have some very, very good referees in the amateur system, and thankfully we do for the program as a whole, you know, to develop fighters.
Yeah, I got to admit, like when I took it, it's a very thorough program. It's very intense. It's a lot to take on.
As it should be.
And it's it's good because I mean I did the cut course. I've done the cut course as well.
Yeah.
And level 1 and 2 of the cut course is not nearly as intense as the reffing course and the officials course. So
It's an
it's
important
interesting,
job.
yeah. But see, I feel so as a ref person. That's an important job
They
too.
are. They're
They
all-
should. I feel they should have been like equally
Yeah.
as in depth.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, but yeah, no. So I've learned a lot over the last, I say, 6-7 years, and I keep going. I'm going to the WBO convention coming up, and I go there to associate with the top referees in the world, and we talk about boxing scenarios, and you know, I've been in boxing a long time, as you know. Like 1980 was my first fight. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I posted something in 1983. I boxed a guy by the name Mark Johnson, who was Mark Too Sharp Johnson. Now, I was 9 years old. He was 12 years old. So, but we weighed the same weight. And Mark Too Sharp Johnson became the world featherweight champion, and he ultimately inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I boxed some good fighters in my time. You know, I didn't win, but I boxed some good fighters, and I have a lot of experience. And the thing is, though, in Canada, we're still the little brother to the U.S. And I look back, even on going back to that '97 World Championship, and I won my first fight. I actually stopped the guy from, I think, Macedonia or Greece. Next fight was against USA, and I fought a guy. His name was Deverell Williamson. He's known as Deverell Touch Asleep Williamson, and you know, well known. And I won. I beat him, and then my next fight was against the Cuban Felix Savant. So it's interesting. That was when the internet was still just starting, and so I search up, you know, the fight on, you know, I think I was in Budapest, Hungary, and I search up the fight, and this article comes up, upset American Williamson loses to Canadian, and I'm thinking, well, why is that an upset? Why is that an upset? But it's because the U.S. all they know are their champions, and here I was boxing for 17 years. And I beat their guy, but it's an upset, you know. So you know, and
Yeah.
when I translate that back to refereeing, we're in Canada, you know. So Canada, we box, you know, in Ontario. I work, you know, in the Ontario Athletic Commission. But are the big world title fights coming to Canada? So how do I get out there? How do I eventually get in the mix? It's difficult because I'm still a Canadian. You know, maybe they think we don't know boxing. I don't know. We've obviously had great fighters over the years, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, the population of the U.S. and other countries around the world, UK, Russia, all Germany, everywhere, you know, we're small. So somehow I hope one day I'll get out there and maybe you'll see me on a pay-per-view fight, let's say.
I'm sure we will.
Good. That saved the question. I was going to ask if that's the end game, but we know, refereeing world championship fights on.
I can see Mark getting there. I give him
on Showtime. And
5 years. I think we'll be watching less.
It's not unlike being a fighter. You got to pay your dues. You get learn. You're still learning. You're learning. You're evolving. You're like this is you know how it goes.
And you're making the right connections by going to those seminars, by taking in that knowledge. You're meeting them, and then that's when the opportunities come. Right? Is showing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a lot of regional titles: IBF International, WBO, WBA, NABA, WBC. I've done some regional, pretty large titles. And the thing is, I'm talking to these referees on a regular basis, and you know, like Jack Reese. I'll tell you something that's been really salt of the earth to me recently is Joe Cortez, referee Joe Cortez. Yeah. He's been called the last 2 weeks because my mother's going through some things. She's sick, and he calling it, and it's like, wow, Joe Cortez, the one of the greatest referees of all time, is calling me and asking about my mom. You know, it's like
brotherhood. It's like a brotherhood, huh?
Yeah,
yeah.
Family, right? It's just like a boxing gym's a family. It's like the referee community, the officials, judging and officials. It's a family, right? So it's been great, you know, just to meet, because I never thought as a fighter, you know, to be honest, I'm a fighter. My goal wasn't to be a professional referee. Maybe my goal was to go to the Olympics. That was my goal. And as a kid, my goal was to be, you know, a world champion professional fighter. But then as the years went on, my goals evolved, and I realized, hey, you know what? I hit my mark. I hit my point at the Olympics. you know, that's good for me. You know, pro is not for me. And that was that, you know. So, but now as a referee, I have aspirations and goals, and all you can do is hard, right?
Nice, nice, nice. Are you ready for rapid fire?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right.
I'm ready today.
So this is the rapid fire. So we get to ask you one question each about anything we want, and you have to answer honestly, or I come to your house. Are you gonna be honest with it?
Can I come for that car ride?
Yeah.
That's like a 4-hour car ride.
He's a big guy. All right.
Actually, yeah, I want to be there. I'm gonna
I'll find
film
somebody to
it.
come to your house. All right. So one question.
Okay.
Sonia, you're first.
Okay. So you get to pick any two fighters to ref their world title. I know I stole it from you. Sorry.
Right.
Any two fighters from any time frame, any time period. I'm not going to make it relevant to now. But what is your world title fight that you would want to ref?
Well,
like
my all-time favorite fighter growing up was Larry Holmes. So in you know, the early 80s, I loved Larry Holmes. I loved his jab. So he's got to be one of the fighters. And I got to pick someone from the 40s, Joe Louis. Larry Holmes against Joe Louis. Let's see what happens.
Oh, okay. That would be a great fight.
Yeah, that jab would be hard to get by, but, you know.
That might have to be. You know what? We might have to make that a poll now to see. So yeah, I want to know from everybody. We'll put this in the stories later. Who do you have? Joe Louis or Larry Holmes?
Prime.
Okay.
Really,
Okay, that's fair.
Right. So I know you've watched a lot of boxing. So I want to know which fighter, because he's so sneaky and dirty, would you not want to referee in the ring? Like, because you're like, yo, because there's some
sneaky ones.
But that's an easy answer for me. And Sid has a lot of experience with him, but well, yeah, Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah, so I have 12 rounds of experience.
I really gotta wear this shirt one of these shows.
Yeah, you're right though. He was so slick.
Yes.
He knew where the referee was, how to do it.
But I feel like Duran was like that too.
Duran was horrible.
Duran is just like unbelievable. But Duran, I think Duran did that. I'm not saying Bernard Hopkins didn't do things that were illegal, but I think Duran was smart with it, very, very smart master boxer.
Yeah.
But I think Bernard Hopkins would be a very difficult fighter to manage as a referee.
Yeah. No, that's
awesome. And you know, even when situations happen, he'll appeal to the referee during the fight, and it's just I think he'd be very difficult. Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. So I challenge you.
Okay.
I challenge you to watch Sid versus Bernard.
Yeah.
And then come back to us with any calls that you would have made different.
Well, after the fact, he'd be like, whatever calls you make, but hopefully,
I want to see it, right? I want to see how he would have.
Yeah, there's
an interesting perspective. Now he's a
but
ref.
now
he's got all this experience.
But he's watching it from a TV screen.
Is he going to be our ref?
As opposed to be in there. It's
Is he going to be our ref when you fight?
Maybe.
Mark, would you like to be our ref?
The 50th episode, yeah, Sonia is going to have a fight. So we haven't told her who she's fighting, and we haven't told how many rounds.
Wait, an actual legal fight or boxing?
It'll be legal.
Okay.
It'd be an exhibition.
Yeah, exhibition.
They're famous now. These exhibitions are going on everywhere.
Yeah, we're gonna put it on YouTube.
We're
gonna YouTube it.
Minus the 20 million.
Yeah, no. I want the 20 million too. Okay, I want the 20 million as well.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna come up with an energy drink that is not Prime. Sorry, I was watching it this morning. It got under my skin again.
Nice.
All right.
Mark.
By all means.
Listen, man. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us and share some of your insights, your energy, and you kind of mentioned your mom there. All the best with whatever's happening with your mom. Our prayers and well wishes. And your dad, love that guy. Your whole family, man, just amazing. So, in your young family, I love seeing your pictures.
I love seeing his kids. And have you seen what his wife makes? No. Like the cutest stuff.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. I can't remember the name of her Instagram page, but guys, if you have kids, what is it again, Mark?
Are you talking about my wife or?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Fruck Studio.
Yeah.
Fruck Studio at Fruck Studio. So does pattern designing and for dresses and so.
Oh, very
It's
cool.
like the cutest
Very
stuff,
cool.
like little dress up stuff as well.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
love it.
Now, so continued success, man. Continued success with the family, and one day we will see you in the ring in those big championship fights. Because the discipline, the hard work, all the basics that you talked about, the fundamentals, we know that that's just a part of who you are. So when you do those things consistently over a long period of time, you know what happens, man. You get there, success. So we look forward to seeing that.
Hard. Thanks for having me.
You got it, man.
Take care.
All right.
right.
Thanks again, Mark.
Mark Simmons, everyone.
Mark Simmons, have a wonderful. Oh, and guys, you can catch him probably. I assume you're working September 9th, the United fight.
There, I'll be there.
Yeah, so September 9th, if you want to go to United Promotions, you can watch them live on DAZN, or you could just buy tickets and you could watch the fights live and see Mark in action in the ring.
That's it. Get out there, watch some Canadian boxing. Support.
Right, but it's all good.
Awesome.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you back here again in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. See you. Bye.
Bye.